Welcome to another episode of the Fan Zone podcast. Your home for all things Bolton Wanderers, up the Trotters, the Northwest's #1 podcast.
Good evening, ladies and gents. Welcome back to another episode of the Fan Zone podcast. It is, of course, a preview show. And before we get stuck into this evening's preview show, that, of course, means that it is sponsored by B2B Workwear. So a huge thanks to those guys for sponsoring the preview show for this season. But let's get started. It is Huddersfield Town at home. It is a chance for us to cement our place in the playoffs, which could equally put Huddersfield's to bed. It's a big game. It is a very, very big football match come Saturday, and one that I'm sure we're all excited for. To talk about that fixture, we are joined by James Jessup, who's, of course, a Huddersfield fan, and he was telling me backstage he's missed 3 games across all competitions this season. So I'm sure you can all agree he's very well qualified to talk about Huddersfield Town. But James, a good evening to you. How are you?
Not too bad. Excited for the game this weekend, business end. I mean, there's a lot riding on it. Even happier, but I've just seen Port Vale have gone 2-0 up against Peterborough, so that's always puts a smile on my face as well. So, yeah, let's bring it on.
Absolutely. It is a pleasure to have you with us. And it's very nice to see you all in the live chat this evening. So a very warm welcome to you. Channel members, of course, an especially warm welcome to you. But thanks to everybody. We've even got somebody. Oh, no. I thought that said watching from Brazil. I'm assuming he's referencing Bolton versus Stevenage, which was like watching Brazil. I'm sure we were all desperate to see a repeat of that come Saturday. But we will get stuck into this evening's preview show. Of course, the first segment is season so far, so we'll get stuck straight into that one. Right. I should have said before we started, actually, that if you want to find out any more about James, then if you head over to the link in the description, you can find a little link to his Twitter and you can go and check out his Twitter, give him a follow, all of that good stuff. But season so far, we will get to this point eventually. I'm going to leave it on screen so that I remember. But Huddersfield Town, it has been an up and down season, I think it's fair to say. Obviously, over the last few games, form has been decent. A point against Cardiff is a very, very good result. We saw what they can be like on their day. But then you look at the likes of some games, Huddersfield, Port Vale. We know what it's like to make a trip to Port Vale and be very unimpressed. Burton, again, we know what it's like to go to Burton and come away less than impressed. There's been a couple of games in there where you would have expected Huddersfield to do better. Has that been the story of your season?
Yeah, the word I would use to describe our season so far has been underwhelming. There was a lot of fanfare at the start of the season, and rightfully so. It's no secret we've spent a bit of money, shall we say, this season. We've brought in a lot of high-profile names, cleared the deck of a lot of players from last year, and some of those results you mentioned were frustrating because there's not been many games where I felt we've been completely overrun, but there's been a lot of games where it feels like we've been playing at 70% and then we switch off for key moments. So a game that comes to mind that I think sums up our season a lot is Blackpool away, which was right back as probably I think it was our first loss of the season back in August, where we were doing well, we were 1-0 up, and then just had a mad 10 minutes where Blackpool put 3 past us and the game was gone. And that feels very much how the season's been. But the last 4 games have been better. We've got a win and 3 draws. And if I'm being honest, it probably should be 3 wins and a draw. The draw being the one we ended up actually winning. I think we were the better team against Reading. We're certainly the better team against Wycombe and Cardiff. But again, it's with Wycombe and Cardiff last-minute goals, just switching off. But the effort's been there the last 2 games when it's mattered. But luck hasn't. But you can't for the whole season. We can't put it down to luck. It has been our own undoing. That anytime we seem to get momentum, we just become unfocused, or there's an injury, or something goes our way. The heads drop, and it takes a few games to get back into it.
Wow, that sounds familiar, and it's funny because all of the top 6, I think at some point we'll have had this conversation, perhaps bar Lincoln. We had Stockport come on the preview show, and their guest said more or less word for word what you've just said. Now, you will have to excuse me, James. I should have warned you about this before we got started. Josh is a legend, and he's just given us a little super chat, which means we have to do something. But I didn't want to cut you off because I thought you might have found it very rude. But Josh, this one is for you. Josh, a very, very, very exceptional contribution to the show from you this evening, my friend. Thank you very much for that.
Cheers, Josh.
So it's funny because, like I said, we've had this conversation so many times on this podcast, not just with ourselves, but with other guests. It really feels like there is a battle in the playoffs for who wants it the least.
Yeah.
Feels like everybody's desperate to give it to somebody else.
And that's been the frustrating part, because we'll look at it and go, right, we've had a loss. We shouldn't have lost it. Oh, everyone else has lost. It doesn't matter. Everyone win the next game and everyone else has won. We thought, well, okay, everyone will lose and everyone else has lost or draw. And it just feels like we should be out of it. But other teams, it's like we're being teased. Like, come on, can we get the playoffs? Can we get the playoffs? Oh, no, you can't have it this week. Can we get the playoffs? No playoffs this week.
Yeah, it's funny because it's not even just the top 6, is it? It's probably down to about Wycombe.
Well, I think at one point it was 5 points between 5th and 12th or something ridiculous. Yeah. It's been if you're neutral, a great season to watch. From our point of view, hell.
Yes, absolutely. I think the playoff campaign has made for an exciting one, and the main thing is it's that element of having absolutely no idea who's gonna finish in there. You know, Wanderers fans, I don't think we're entirely confident. Maybe even after that result against Cardiff, that we were going to end up, in the playoffs. So David's put a comment on. And for those of you listening back for audio only, he said, we can afford to lose where Huddersfield cannot. And I'm not sure we can afford to lose, because I think a loss here would set us back. Yes, the league position is okay, and mathematically we can afford to lose. But I think losing at this stage of a season to a team that is hoping to get into the playoffs paints a really bad picture, not least for momentum, but especially after a 5-1 win. I think this is a must-win game for both teams. James, how are you feeling heading into this game?
I think the feeling, I know for me, I'm feeling like it's now dead rubber for us. It feels like it's done. 4 points in for us is 3 games. Stevenage game in hand. It's job done. I think a lot of the fans, if you look at the hashtag and what puts in line, there's a lot of that feeling as well. But there's always that small part of you who's like, it's only 4 points. We've had lots of games this year where if we win, you're just waiting for a team to lose. But I think for me, if Stevenage didn't have the game in hand, I'd be more confident. But that game, they've got a game in hand, and it's against Barnsley, who have been a bit of charity FC this year, especially in the second half of the season once they lost Keeler Dunn. So for me, it feels like, right, it's an away game. If we can win it, great, but it probably won't matter. I'm surprised that you've said Bolton are sort of looking over your shoulders a little bit. I'd have thought you'd be in like, right, rotation mode, who's up for the playoffs now, as opposed to the job's still not done.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us are confident that we'll get in the playoffs. But there's a probably a loud minority of the fan base that aren't as confident. And I think a lot of that is attributed to performances like we saw against Cardiff, especially that Port Vale one that really stung. Because we were going there and we were on the back of, I think, a 13 game unbeaten run, maybe 14 games, and we just looked hideous. But then Plymouth was a good result, and then you thought, probably similar to you at times this season, you think, right, we've cracked it, we're onto something. Stockport County, a good point, and then we went to Cardiff, and it was another, we just fell apart. So you can never trust the results. It sort of portrays a false picture, when we're winning games, it's not always as comfortable as perhaps it might look from an outsider's point of view. We've had another comment from Mar2540. The games that matter are the playoffs. We don't need to win this, but the big risk is complacency, which I think is absolutely spot on. Obviously, if Huddersfield are going to make it into the playoffs, which there is there is a chance that you will, how important is momentum heading into those?
Well, I've said because so I live in a house with a Peterborough fan, and my dad's a Leeds fan / Peterborough fan, and we've all agreed that it's unlikely Huddersfield will get in. But if we do get in, it means we've probably won our last 3 games, and we wouldn't be the team that, because that would be 3 wins plus the 4 unbeaten ahead of it, that's 7 unbeaten going into the playoffs. I think that would make us the team no one fancies playing. So momentum's everything, because it doesn't matter on the day, but you want that fear factor. You want the team to be a bit unsure. Maybe they might sit back slightly deeper than they would, or go for a more defensive approach. Momentum's everything, and we've seen it before where teams have made a late surge into the playoffs. I mean, I think everyone can see that Southampton, who wants to play them in the Championship at the moment? Like Charlton last season stormed the second half of the season. Like, momentum's everything, and it feels like no one at the top except Lincoln has any momentum. It has just been, this week we were good, next week we were average, and we've nicked it. This week we were good, but a ref decision's cost us, and no one's put a run together where it's gone right 3-0, 2-0, 3-1, like where it's just like, right, bring on my next game. But there's been spells, there's been 2 or 3 games, but that's not momentum. It's not right 7 wins in a row, let's go for an 8th.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And that story, like I said, has been played out across so many teams this season. One of the things that we've talked about quite a lot on this podcast is the quality of the league this season. Particularly when you look at the likes of Ipswich last season and Wrexham, Birmingham. Not Ipswich last season, but in recent seasons gone by, you've had teams like Ipswich, Wrexham, Sunderland who've absolutely, stormed the league. Birmingham were another one that spent a fortune and ran away with it. Lincoln this year have been very good. But what do you rate the overall quality of this league? Because there's been lots of debate about whether it's a worse league because everybody's performing worse, or whether the fact that everybody is struggling to take points off one another makes it a more competitive league.
I'm going to go for the second opinion. I think the best way to judge how a league is, you will look to the bottom of the table rather than the top, and how compact it is from bottom to top. And you're looking at needing over 50 points to stay up. We've lost Rotherham. I don't think many people would have called Rotherham getting relegated. Maybe the start of this season, but if last season you said Rotherham are going down next year, you wouldn't have believed it. Blackpool and Wigan have been in a relegation fight. I said now, Port Vale have been bottom of the league for how long? They've just gone 2-0 against Peterborough in 15 minutes. So yeah, Lincoln have been exceptional. They've run away from it, but they're still. I'm using Peterborough as my guide here, the 16th. I think from us to them, there's only 10 points. It's not a massive gap from 6th to relegation fight, and it's a good job. But there's been spells where, we have won in a bad run because it was so easy at one point to be dragged into a relegation battle out of nowhere. You look at Barnsley, you look at Peterborough now. People thought they were safe, but they're 4 points off the drop. Exeter and Wimbledon have been sucked into it, and they looked safe midway through. So, yeah, I think you look at the bottom of the table to judge your quality, and if everyone was on like 20 points and out of it, then you think, okay, it's not a compact league. And I think it's better this way, because any other season, Huddersfield would be out of it now and be 12th. But because of how tight it's been, we have got that bit of that carrot dangling.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And it's one that we've spoke about for at great length on the podcast. Right then, let's get stuck into injury update, and we'll bring you the latest team news ahead of this weekend's clash. So, John McAtee is back in contention after serving his 3-match ban given for that silly red card at Plymouth Argyle on Good Friday. He's been playing in the B team to get him match ready, so that will be a bolster for the Wanderers squad. And we are expected to hear relatively soon whether Ethan Arahan or Xavier Simmons will be part of his plans for the weekend. Obviously, those two have been out for the last 4 games, I think, after picking up an injury during training. And I think we can all agree that those two have been quite a big miss, in particular Ethan, who was really finding his feet and getting into some good form before he had to have some time on the sidelines. Sam Dalby has been managing an issue with his ankle. Who'd have known? Because the form that man's been in, you would not have expected him to be carrying a knock. But we'll have a check on him apparently. And Johnny Kenny has been nursing a calf problem, but obviously he did feature in Wanderers' last game. But it might be a case of managing minutes for him. Obviously, Burstow came off the bench and made an impact, so he could feature. Other than that, I'm pretty sure there's no major new injury concerns. Certainly no one expected to miss the rest of the season or anything like that. And obviously, Mario Gozu-Dubry, we saw him back on Tuesday night, and that was marvellous, may I say. So talk to us then about Huddersfield's camp. What is the squad looking like over there?
Battered, absolutely battered. For the last 3 years, we've had awful luck with injuries. It's been non-stop. Ryan Hardy still set to be out for another week or two. Bojan Radulovic, who obviously scored against Bolton in the FA Cup earlier this year, went off injured on Tuesday's game with his arm in a sling. They've said today in a press conference it's not as bad as they suspected, and Bojan has asked to play, but I'll be surprised if he's playing. Lyndon Gooch, who put in probably one of his best performances of the season against Wickham, is out injured for the rest of the season, so it's another right back we've lost. The injuries have been piling up for us this season. We're going into this with 3 strikers. One of them's a youth player who made his professional debut like 2 weeks ago, and has had stitches put in his head in 2 games. So that's what we're dealing with on our forward line. But and Lee Nichols is in concussion protocol, so we'll have Anik in goal, who had an all right game against Cardiff. He didn't have much to do because of how well we played, but in the games he's been under pressure has been a bit butterfingers against conceding 3 against Plymouth. Conceding 3 against Plymouth and conceding in the Virtue Trophy as well to Donny. So we've got a few key players out. Bojan is the big miss for me. We look a completely much better team with him leading the line, because he'll big man up top who can come hold the ball off, and that allows Harness and Humphreys around him to get a bit more space to do what they want to do. But so I suspect you'll probably line up with Alfie May up front, who didn't play at all against Cardiff, which means I won't be surprised to see a set up on the counter attack, because Alfie May is not a player who holds the ball up and comes deep to get attacks going. So yeah, a few problems in our camp, but that's been our story for 3 seasons now.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that seem to. I mean, we under Ian Evatt, I'm not quite sure what went on that training ground, but we had the same problem for a long time, in that players were just constantly out injured. This season, we've not had as many injuries, but there has been the frustration that the first team keeps getting chopped and changed. So I don't think there is a solution at this level. I don't think you can have it both ways, where players play every game and never get injured. Wanderers fans, Jack Anik, who plays in goal for Huddersfield, who will be playing in goal for Huddersfield, actually the brother, I think it's brother, at least a relative of former Wanderers keeper Ben Anik, which is interesting. A little bit of trivia for you there. So in terms of personnel then, how confident are you that, obviously there's some big misses in there for Huddersfield. How confident are you that you'll have what it takes to get the job done? What are your feelings ahead of Saturday?
Well, if we look at the last 4 games, what will happen is we'll be relatively compact, difficult to break down, look to set on the counter, play well, and then you'll score them a 90 plus 10 minute because of a dodgy ref decision, and that'll win you the game. That's the story of how it's been. I think against Wickham in the last minute, Bolker gets a foul. Well, he should be kicking the ball out, to be fair, but he gets a foul on him. They score. Cardiff's equaliser was offside. So look forward to the ref being in your favour, giving you a last minute gift if the game's tight.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Wanderers have been notoriously good at that this season. We have scored an awful lot of goals late on in games. We obviously the Wickham game was absolutely mental, 3 in 8 minutes from like the 90th minute. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't say no to that. Right. Let's hand over to the stat man. It's time for Get Stat On, and I hope you all enjoy his ever getting better segment. I'm running out of adjectives for this man, and hopefully, James, you're in for a treat with what he's prepared for us this evening.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Get Stat On with the Stat Man, and today we're of course going to preview the game against Huddersfield Town on Saturday afternoon. But first, let's say fair blooming play for that 5-1 win against Stevenage on Tuesday night. What a game, what a massive win in the promotion race, if you will. Maybe not so much of a race anymore, but still, big win. And this is a big game at 12:30 on Saturday against 7th placed Huddersfield, so they will be right up for this game, even more so after their 1-1 draw against Cardiff at home on Tuesday night. So this is, like I've said already about 47 times, a huge game. They are going to be up for it, but they haven't exactly been the best on their travels this season. Of course, this game is at the tough sheet this weekend. They've got just 21 points from 21 games away from home this season, which puts them 14th in the away table in League One. So that's a big point in your favour, and there are going to be quite a few points in your favour, as we'll come on to very shortly. But as I said with Stevenage in the last preview, Huddersfield are quite an interesting team, but it's a bit of the other way from Stevenage. Stevenage were very good defensively, very solid defensively, hadn't conceded many goals, but going forward they weren't the best. Swap it round, because Huddersfield have scored the 4th most goals of any team in the league with 66. I think we can agree that is quite impressive. But they have conceded 57 goals, which puts them in the bottom 10 in the league for goals conceded. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. And we'll come on to why in just a second as well, because there is a lot more to add to that. You are definitely going to dominate the ball on Saturday afternoon, with Huddersfield likely sitting in a bit of a 5-2-3 or even a 5-4-1 structure, looking something a little bit like this that you can see on the screen now. Now, to exploit that kind of shape, what you do, because obviously it's a bit more difficult with a flat back 5, what you do, stretch your wide players as far as you can and have your strikers very narrow. This leaves space in that half space, which we talk about so much on this channel. But all it is the space in between the centre and the wing. And obviously, you'll notice there's no one in that space right now. Now, it's not to say that there couldn't be. If you play an attacking midfielder, they may drift into that half space, or the fullbacks may push up into that half space, or even the wingers may drift inside. But what I do personally is start the wingers wide, and then when Josh Sheehan gets on the ball, because he's the best passer at the ball at the football club, maybe even the league, the winger who is closest to him makes the run in front of the fullback into that half space. Sheehan's got to play the pass. Yes, it's not an easy pass, but if anyone can play it, it's him. Winger gets the ball, either flashes it across goal into the corridor of uncertainty or cuts it back. There's 2 strikers. One should make the run towards the goal, one should stay back. Bob's your uncle, and hopefully there's a goal. But, as I said before, their big weakness is goal conceded. But their XG conceded, and yes, I can hear what you're going to say, nobody likes XG, but their XG conceded is the 6th best in League One. As per these metrics that I've got on my screen here, they've conceded 10 more goals than they should have done. 10. Is that good? Absolutely not. Whether you like XG or not, you must be able to understand that is quite the concern. So what I'd say is test the goalkeeper. Now, which goalkeeper is it going to be? Here's the big killer. Jack, I can't say that name. Alnwick, give me a chance, mate. I've got no idea. Jack, let's go with Jack. He started the last game. He's played the last 2 games after Lee Nichols went off injured against Wycombe Wanderers. And in his 110 minutes of football in April, he's conceded 3 goals. While he also played in March 1 game, 45 minutes against Plymouth Argyle, and he conceded another 3 that day. Test the goalkeeper. Whether he's good or not, he's going to be a bit rusty, if he's even playing. To be honest, I do not know when Lee Nichols is coming back. I don't know if there's another backup goalkeeper. Either way, their goalkeeper is not shoo-in. He's not the first name on the team sheet. So, definitely test the goalkeeper. Not having a certain goalkeeper behind you, if you don't know who it's going to be, as a defender, it can cause a lot of concern. As I'm sure you can think of many examples with Bolton and with many other clubs over the years. But anyway, we've talked about the weaknesses. Let's talk about their best player and let's look at how they might score, because I've been quite negative towards Huddersfield, haven't I? Murray Wallace is the highest rated player on my statistical app of choice today. He is one of the central defenders. He tends to play in the middle. Now, Wallace is one of the best defenders in the league for in the air, with 203 aerial duels won at a percentage rate of 71.3. So, in other words, the ball's coming in, he's going to nod it clear most of the time. As I said, he plays in the middle of the back three. So if you are crossing the ball in the air, which you tend to do quite a lot, do you not? The strikers have got to be peeling towards that back post. So you imagine Mario Cozy-Dubry gets the ball on the right-hand side. Instead of going down the line, he decides to cut back. And you can sort of imagine that whipped cross to the back post. Now, if Dolby and Kenny are up front again, Dolby has got to be peeling away to the back post. And yes, it's going to be a centre-back marking him still, but it's not going to be Wallace, who is absolutely incredible in the air. So he's got more chance. And maybe Kenny occupies Wallace in that situation, or he makes the near post run. There's a lot of options to that. But on Wallace, his pass percentage of 76% is not the best for a central defender. So when he gets the ball, run at him, press him, absolutely make him, a word I can't say on the channel, make him brick it, basically. Put him under as much pressure as you can so he goes, whoa, what have I got to do? Seen a bit, get it gone, you've got the ball again, happy days. As for their goal scoring then, just the last thing we do before we go back to the video, Huddersfield have scored 48 goals from open play with 14 from set pieces. That is quite a lot. It's put them in the top 10 in League One for set pieces this season. So you've definitely got to watch on set pieces. Now, Leo Castledine, can we not just have normal names? Come on, give me a chance. My pronunciation is shoddy at best, but when it's this sort of stuff, come on, give me a break. Anyway, he's their top goal scorer this season, but he's not at the club anymore. Went to Middlesbrough in January, and he's injured anyway, so he won't be playing, obviously. Now, Bojan Radulovic, come on, give me a chance. He's their second top scorer this season with just 8 goals. But he went off injured, or I don't know if he was injured, to be fair. He went off after 38 minutes against Cardiff on Tuesday anyway. So whether he's going to play or not is an entirely different thing in itself. So what I wrote at the end of this, I normally put a little summary just to remind me what to say at the end of my notes. And I've put, this game is there for the taking, so take it. Simple as that. Almost everything is in your favour, so go and win and get a massive 3 points in this promotion race before the end of the season. I'm going to leave it there for today's episode, and I'm sure I'll see you very soon. Goodbye.
Our stat man, love his content. Exceptional as ever. What did you make about some of the things that he said there? Obviously, you referenced your XG as a talking point, and perhaps alluded to the fact that Wanderers look to test the keeper. What do you make of what he said, though?
Well, the first point I point out is he's actually moved us up the table. He said we're 7th. Hurrah! I don't know how that's happened, but we've got up a couple of places. Yeah, the XG thing is, that comes down to, it's not so much the keeper, because Lee Nichols, in my opinion, is one of the best keepers in the league and could easily be in the Championship. It comes down to moments of just concentration, just switching off. I think of Bolton, where you relentlessly heading it out, you're clearing it constantly, then one player just stops following his man. They get in for a tap in at the far post, and that's the only like major chance the team has, but they put it away. We've scored a lot of own goals recently as well. Josh Feeney, who won't be playing, is out for the season, but has been quite vulnerable at the back. He's the player that a lot of teams have targeted. A lot of mistakes have come from him. With his Mo Wallace thing, Mo Wallace is exceptional, but so is Radinho Bolka, who is the centre back on his right. So when he mentions people going into far post and that, it's not as simple as that, because Radinho Bolka is quite pacey and can get there. It'd probably be the other side to target him, with Sean Rowan playing at the left of the back three. But defensively, it's not so much testing the keeper. Like Cardiff were taking long shots from everywhere and we dealt with them fine. It is, we concede set pieces, 2 from Wickham. That's been the Achilles heel at the moment, switching off at set pieces and just letting flimsy deflections go in. So he's had a good point of Castledine was a lot of our goals. We've missed Castledine a lot. I've mentioned Bojan Radolovic. His pronunciation was correct for Bojan Radolovic, by the way, so he can pat himself on the back for that. He's been a key player in the link-up. So I think we might struggle to get forward this time. I think you will have the possession. I think you will be putting a lot of balls in the box. And I think for the most part, you'll see us sending it out, dealing with it, but struggling to create anything significant in the final third. Marcus Harness has been quite useful in that regard, but Bojan is the big miss for me. And it will be a game of you having a lot of the ball, a lot of the crosses coming in, Mo Wallace standing tall, but when you're under that much pressure, there will be a mistake somewhere from someone, and that'll be your chance. And it might even be an own goal or a silly pen. And speaking of penalties, that's another thing you have to worry about. We never get them. We never get them. In the last 4 years of me watching Huddersfield, I've seen us get 3 penalties in 4 years.
That's a very unimpressive stat.
Yeah. And they're all last year, by the way.
Wow.
All last year. No, 2 of them were like 3. There's been 3 last year, and I think we've had 3 this year, and I saw 2 of them. So I've seen 5 penalties in 4 years, and most of them have been this year.
Yeah, that's not great going, is it? We'll move on to player swap, and we'll find out who will be swapping sides. Now, before we reveal who will be swapping sides, let's talk about someone who has swapped sides. How have you rated Dion Charles's impact at Huddersfield? I don't think he's got off to the start. Well, not even the start. I don't think he's performed how he would have liked to, or how anyone would have liked him to, for that matter. What's gone wrong for Dion at Huddersfield? Because he looked like for a minute he was going to break into the side, and he started scoring a couple. He had a little tiny run where he picked up some goals, but then it all seems to have come crashing down again. Yeah,
he had a brief spell in November where he scored 3 goals against Mansfield across 2 games in the Virtue Trophy and the league. So when playing Mansfield, Dion's first name on the team sheet, it's clearly the way to go about it. Yeah, Dion has been frustrating because it's not for a lack of effort. He runs, he gets himself in the right places, but his first touches let him down. Because of lack of own confidence, he takes 1 too many touches where it's thinking, just pull the trigger, and he'll try and take on an extra man or get around the keeper. When he does get a chance, he's skying it. So by that spell, he has been frustrating, and I fully suspect come the summer window, he will be leaving. I've got a feeling he'll go to a club like Barnsley or Peterborough, a team that don't necessarily play hoofball, as you'd call it, but they're not a high budget team where, they'll get him on the cheap and they're like, right, let's see if we can get 20 goals out of him like he was at Bolton. And you watch it, he will start scoring again for that team, and he'll put a couple past us. I think it hasn't helped that he's come to a club like Huddersfield where, and I'm sure it's a similar story at Bolton, especially the last few seasons, where it's not we want to win, it's we have to win. And the mood of the fan base is, if it is not perfect every game, every minute for every game, the fans will get on your back pretty quickly. And this season, it's been that on steroids because I think we've got Bobby Wales on loan from Swansea. He came on against Port Vale and his first touch it was meant to either be a shot or a cross box. It's a tap across box, but he put it out for a throw in and the fans immediately started saying useless and whatnot. He's an 18-year-old kid that's just come on. Like, you do not have time to breathe at Huddersfield. The fan base has been getting on you. I'm not a fan of it. It's become a bit of there's a lot of sack culture, a lot of scapegoat culture. If one person goes, the fans celebrate. It's like, right, who's next to blame? And unfortunately, Dion's one of them people where he hasn't put the shifts in, but it's not helping that he's now playing for fans that actively are not supporting him. Not, they can get on your back pretty quickly, and it's not the right club for him anymore. And I'm sure he's got more goals than him, but it's not going to be with Huddersfield because I can't see him winning the fans over again. And I don't think he wants to be honest. I think of a game where when we beat Mansfield 3-1, we like to push a player forward to take the applause solo, and the players are pushing Dion to take it, and he basically shrugged and walked off. So I don't think he wants to be here, and I don't think the club want him to be here. So he's not even getting on the bench anymore, which says it all.
Yeah, it is a shame. Obviously, we'd sort of seen that slow decline when he left Bolton, but knew full well what he was capable of. And I think a lot of us hoped that he would go on and do okay at Huddersfield. It seemed like there was some kind of falling out before he left. Let's talk about players that we would like to swap then. I was torn here, really, really torn. David's put a comment in the chat saying that he would have Nichols. So obviously your keeper, been a long-standing player at
Just signed a new contract as well, so pay up.
Unlikely that we'll be going him then.
Yeah.
I did think about him. Obviously, our keeper situation has been contentious this season. We've gone through 4 this season. I'm not sure if you know, but we signed 2 goalkeepers in the summer. Both of them left in January, which it was far from ideal. So we brought 2 more in. Jack Bonham has been okay, but looked shaky at times. When he's been good, he's been great. But when he's not been great, he's not been great. I think there's a lot of pressure on keepers at this level when they're expected to, be able to play a certain style. But it's a shame for Bonham because I think he's walked into a side midway through a season where he's just been expected to be able to, do everything all at once after not playing very much football for quite a while. I did think about, obviously, the man up front who I won't try and pronounce his name.
Bojan Radilovic.
That one. Statman got it right. I'm not going to bother trying. But I'm quite happy with Dalby at the minute.
Would you take Joe Taylor? I know he's not our player at the moment, but he's coming back.
Quite possibly. I think we're going to be short on strikers next season. Obviously, we had Marcus Falls, who was on loan but has been injured for a little while. Mason Burster was on loan, so we won't have him next season. Johnny Kenny's on loan, so we won't have him next season, or we might do, but who knows? So it was a real tough one for me. The person I've actually ended up choosing, though, is probably one that you won't expect, but it's Bally Mumba. On Tuesday night, we saw Max Conway come on in the centre of midfield, forced through injuries. There wasn't anyone else who could play there, and I quite like that idea moving forward. I think he's much better going forward, and I think if we can offer him that little bit of forward freedom, I think he could end up quite suited to that role. But then it does leave a big hole at left back. And Ballymumba has played there for Huddersfield this season. But as far as I'm aware, he can also play right back, I believe. And that has been a sticking point for us this season as well. Obviously, he's played under Schumacher at Plymouth. So for me, it would be Ballymumba, because I think if anyone can get the best out of him, it would be his former gaffer, Stephen Schumacher.
Yeah, you go Mumba surprised me. I was expecting to say Harness or Ledson because they're the ones that are sort of taking the headlines at the moment. But Mumba, he's a hard one to judge at the moment because he's come in and the fans have got on his back because we spent a lot of money on him to come in. So people expected him to hit the ground running straight away. But he's just become a dad, so I think his mind's elsewhere at the minute. We see glimpses of what he's capable of. I actually think he had a really good game against Cardiff. He put the ball in the net in the first 2 minutes, which was wrongly ruled for offside, as the Sky replays showed when I watched it back afterwards. We've seen glimpses of what he can do. He's very happy to take a man on. His final ball's been lacking at times, but as if we're to take Martin Drury, who's currently acting head coach in Manning's absence, along with John Stead, he said today, because he got asked about Mumba and his fans' criticism of him, he said, watch this space because he's a player that he thinks next season, once he's had his kid and he'll get summer sorted out, said he'll be a player that you can think will kick on because he works hard. So maybe for next season, if you did have Mumba, you'd get the full fruits of it. I think the issue is he's been compared to Mikael Miller a lot, who, again, former Plymouth player, when he has played there, has been exceptional, but he's made of paper mache, unfortunately. So we get him for half a season, and I think he's a player he's out of contract summer, he'll be gone. So I think there's a lot of people comparing Mumba to him. It's just been an inconsistent start, but he doesn't get injured, which makes him a real rarity for us at Huddersfield Town.
Yeah, probably right across the Football League as well. And you mentioned there that he's just become a dad. He's still only 24 as well, so he's got a little bit of longevity, you would hope, and that was my reason for not going with some of the other two that you mentioned, in particular, Ledson. There are not Ledson, sorry. There are a number of players at this level who, can play probably until they're well into their 30s. But you never know, do you? There's always that chance that they could come like 32, 33, and then everything changes and it just knees fall off, everything goes wrong.
I think with our squad, and we said it at the start of the season, a lot of our players could probably walk into any team in the league. But for whatever reason, as a unit together, it's just not clicking. And I think a lot comes from the first half of the season under Lee Grant. I think there's a bit of complacency, maybe a bit of like, okay, we're gonna walk this, and then the fans are suddenly on their back for the first loss in 6 games. It's like, hang on, we're up here. I think under Manning, it's clear that Manning perhaps wasn't as focused because rightfully so. He's got other things on his plate that he absolutely needs to deal with first. So again, it didn't feel like the players were sure what messages received. It's only now the last 4 games that they're going, hang on, we're rolling up the sleeves and we're seeing it, and then we're getting ref decisions go against us and whatnot. So it's been a real roller coaster of squad, but hopefully, touching wood, next season, because I do think we'll be in League One. Now that a lot of them have come in and settled, that's when they can click and do what they should be doing on paper.
Yeah. Speaking of clicking, let's head over to the final segment of this evening, and we'll do What's the Score, play along at home. Do you think Wanderers will still be clicking and ticking along nicely, or do you think there is an upset inbound? What's the score? Right, we've had our first one. Mar 2540, 2-2, both teams happy. Oh no, Ian got in there first. Bolton 2, Huddersfield 0. Oof. And I'm right, actually. Davies just called me out. I'm sorry, this has probably been one of the worst shows I have ever done. I am not sure what's happened tonight, but the words that are coming from my brain to my mouth just aren't doing what they should be doing. James hasn't picked one of our players for player swap, and that is not how that swag segment works. It's not player steal, it's player swap.
Yeah.
So, Davies, you are right.
I'd have gone with, I'm going to mispronounce his name now. Is it Kuza, the winger? Kuza, I can't. His name's that's the one. I'd have taken him. He's in good form. I honestly thought he moved on from League One. We don't really have any wingers, so it would have been nice to get a decent winger in, so that we have the option to change formation instead of sort of being forced to play wing backs or play a wing back as a winger.
Yep, Cozy Dewberry has been fantastic. He had a little bit of time out through injury, and we were all very disappointed to see him have to sit in the treatment room. But he came back. He got a little bit of game time against Cardiff and looked sharp. And then his first full game, well, he came off, but his first start for Bolton, he scored 2. which was a very welcome return for him.
If you can calm that down for Saturday, it'd be very appreciated.
Yeah. Also, the goal scorer of that goal at your place. So yeah, we are very excited to have him back heading into the playoffs. Okay, now we can do score predictions. I'm very sorry, ladies and gents. This evening has not been my finest display. Ian Chadbond, 2-0 Bolton. Craig has gone for a 3-1 Bolton. Ben has gone for a 3-1. I'm assuming Bolton win. Pete, another 1-0 win. Jordan, 2-0 with a Kenny double. And Mario 2, Huddersfield 0, says David. The score predictions are tilted in Wanderers' favour, I think it's fair to say this evening, which hasn't always been the case. But James, we'll hand over to you. Can we have your score prediction, please, my friend?
I'm gonna be optimistic. I think I've got to be. Our away form has been shocking, but it weren't great last year, and we won 4-0 at Bolton. Do I think we're going to win 4-0? Absolutely not. It's a different Bolton team and a different Huddersfield team. I think you'll see us work hard. I think you'll see us be defensively compact and stop a lot. We'll let you have the ball in the wide areas and stop it getting into the middle. I do think we score, but the refs aren't being kind to us at the moment. The luck isn't falling for us at the moment. So I'm going to go 2-1 Wanderers. I think it'll go 1-0 to you, 1-1, and you'll score from anywhere from the 85th minute onwards, and it'll be a sucker punch, and then the dream really is dead. Even though I'm going to go on record and say I think playoffs are done for us now, but I think you'll win 2-1. In my head, heart says 3-0 Huddersfield.
It's always a battle between head and heart, isn't it? Always.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm confident heading into this, but I think Tuesday's game is slightly playing on that. It's maybe giving me a false sense of security.
Do you think because Bolton have won 5-1 against Stevenage, that either going to be because it can go one of two ways? They can be fired up and go, let's go again against Huddersfield, or it could be, oh, this is easy, or is it where this is easy, we've cracked it, and then they get hit? Because we play a very different game to Stevenage. We will not play for a 1-0. We will come to get 2 or 3.
It's a great question, and I wish I could give you an answer. I have no idea, because sometimes we've battered teams and then we've gone on and really fired up and got results. Other times it's been like we've rocked up and expected it to be a walk in the park because we've turned someone over, and it's just not that way in this division. So I have no idea. I think there is more pressure on Huddersfield, and I think that will play into our hands. So I'm going to go for a Wanderers 2-0 win. Hopefully a clean sheet as well. So yeah, I think I'm happy with a 2-0 Wanderers win. I would be happy with a 2-0 win. But again, that battle between head and heart, James, as you just referenced there, it's always one that you've got to take into consideration when you're making these predictions, because it's very easy to get caught out and look a little bit silly.
Yeah. I think realistically 2-1 to you. But I think Dion will be back on the bench because of Bojan's injury. So let's see if it is 2-1, maybe Dion can come on and get a last-minute winner and get a bit more of some time with the fans.
Yeah, just before we round off, Ben's point here is excellent. For the Stevenage game, the players just seem more front-footed. I think it depends what team turns up massively. It's exactly that. We took the game to Stevenage and we played with confidence and bravery, which is what Schumacher reference was lacking against Cardiff, and it's a confidence game, football. And
you could say the same thing about us in Cardiff, though. I think the stats are we had 15 shots in their box and only put one away. So if we'd been clinical, I don't think Cardiff couldn't play and been 3 or 4-0 down. So if we're clinical, we can put goals away, as we've seen this season. It's just things aren't falling for us.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier, poor refereeing decisions having a part to play in your season so far. Well, I mean, I think I could do a podcast dedicated to the officiating standards of English football, let alone League One. David's also just said, and this will be the final one, James, who wins the playoffs?
Are we assuming
that is?
Are we assuming that the playoffs are the 4 teams currently in them?
It is absolutely free reign. If you think someone sneaks in and takes
if Huddersfield sneak in, we win them. But I don't think we do sneak in. I think the playoffs now are set with the 4 they've got. I think it's going to be and I'm saying this out of hope to get them out the league because I can't stand the away end. I think it's going to be Stockport. And that's a team I want to go up, not because I like them, but because that is a horrendous away end to be in. And I quite, kind of Bradford going up, and Stevenage is local to me, and I quite enjoy Bolton away. So,
yeah, I mean, I
go
think Stockport is the team that Wanderers fans are most concerned about. Obviously, we've not beaten them this season, but I think Wanderers fans, if you asked anyone who supports Bolton, who they're looking out for in the playoffs, it probably would be Stockport.
You say that about Bolton not being Stockport, but if we're in the playoffs of Lincoln, we're the team they don't play because 3 times they've played this season, they've not won once. We were the last in all competitions. We are the last team to beat them.
Really? And how long ago was
December in the Virtue Trophy at their place, 2-0.
It's crazy, isn't it? I don't think anyone predicted Lincoln to go on and do what they have.
We went 2-0 up against them at home a few weeks ago, and it blew it 2-2, the last minute equaliser, and an own goal by Josh Feeney.
Yeah. There's some very consistent themes playing out here, isn't there?
Yeah. Frustrating. So frustrating.
Yes, I can relate to that. There you have it, ladies and gents. That is the Huddersfield Town preview show, sponsored by B2B Workwear. Thank you very much for joining us. And again, thanks to James. Thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure to have you on to talk all things Huddersfield.
It's been a joy to be on here. Anytime.
Lovely. Good stuff. Thank you very much for watching. Until the next time, you've been watching the Fan Zone podcast, and we will see you all very, very soon.